A professional boxer popularly known as Bintin has allegedly killed a local carpenter during an altercation over a burst football in the Adamo area of Ikorodu, Lagos State. Eyewitnesses said the dispute began when the carpenter known as Yellow accidentally punctured a football belonging to the boxer's son. The boy's mother reportedly informed her husband, who rushed home to confront the carpenter. The confrontation turned violent despite attempts by the community head, the Bale, to restore order. Although Yellow agreed to replace the damaged ball, Bintin allegedly followed him and punched him on the forehead, causing him to collapse. The victim was taken to the Agbowa General Hospital, where he was pronounced dead on arrival. Residents described the suspect as short-tempered and frequently involved in fights. After the incident, Bintin surrendered himself at the Immortal police station and was taken into custody. The Bale confirmed that the deceased would be buried according to Islamic rites. Lagos Police spokesperson SP Abimbola Adebisi confirmed the arrest and dismissed rumors of the suspect's release, adding that the case has been transferred to the State Criminal Investigation Department for further investigation. What are your thoughts on this report, Ace? Ace, what are your thoughts on this report about this boxer having killed, the carpenter in the neighborhood simply because of a punctured ball?
You see, the thing is, and this is why I always tell people, when you're angry, the first and last thing to do is walk away. That is the first and last thing. That's, for me, that's the first and last thing. Walk away. Leave the scenario. You may have been in the right. Like, for example, the boxer was perhaps in the right, because how do you accidentally puncture my kid's ball? Well, now he's attacked the carpenter, and to him, all he wanted to was just cause me to pain. But because of his strength and his abilities as his boxer, he's much sharper and his punches hit 10 times harder than the average person. He's been trained on that. So now what was supposed to be a corrective blow has now been a final blow. And that's why that cliche saying comes to mind. You say, with great power comes your responsibility. Now, you were upset. They damaged the ball of your kid, all well and good. But look at the trade-off now. For a ball, you took a life. That's the comparison. There's no comparison between those two. There's no point in which you say, oh, those two, even though they remotely correlate, one is infinitely above the other. You can replace a ball.
Right.
And from the story, you said the carpenter agreed to even replace it.
Yes, they said from the report he was headed towards replacing the ball before he was, accosted by the boxer and he got the blow. Let's talk about flying temperament, right? Do you think that as a people we have come to the point where every day, especially, let me even point this, when on my way to work for most days, because I usually pass through this, crowded areas where you have the commuters and the transport loaders, getting passengers into their vehicle, there's usually one fight or the other going on. Do you think that we have become a people that are so upset? Usually, if you ever get into, the public transport, if you're ever around the market, everybody is constantly infuriated, right? Do you think we have become more angrier than we should be as a people? Or do you think we should go back to when, disputes aren't handled by fists, but, by just clearly speaking to each other?
Okay, I don't particularly get that question.
Do you think that we should move from handling our disputes by the fist and move more into communication and handling our, misunderstandings verbally as human beings should?
Right. Okay, I'd like to believe you can hear me now.
Right, I can hear.
With regards to handling misunderstanding, With regards to handling misunderstandings, it's why I said personally my approach is your first and last reaction should always be walking away, because you may always start in the right. You may start at, oh yeah, well, your reaction is justified. But your reaction might, in this case, outweigh what is actually has taken place. That's why I believe dialogue, because you obviously got into heated argument that didn't go, but they had already reached a resolution. But that's because the anger was already built up. He still went ahead to move further, and it has now done something that will effectively ruin his life and he ended the life of another person. So I believe when it comes to conflicts, first and last reaction should always be removing yourself from that situation. Handle it when you're more calm. If you had waited, till the next day, come early in the morning, you're see what happened with my kid's ball, and he had listened to the man's side of the story, and he's okay, he still felt satisfied, I think he would have been in a much calmer state of mind.
Right.
But he got back home, probably the frustration of being out and about all day, and now he's back home, and now he's already upset, and now he's confronting another person. He got into a shouting match. They have resolved it, or thought they have resolved it, and then the person was going to amend whatever the problem was. But unfortunately, the heat of the anger led to this unfortunate moment.
Sadly so. Now, you have sounded the note of, walking away, but do you think conflict resolution and conflict management should go beyond us learning it as adults and proposing, or what do you think as regards this idea of conflict resolution and management being taught in schools in a way that, and I'm talking about the same way we do GST courses, probably from secondary schools, so, temperaments are calmed before it leads to a big fight. Like I was saying earlier, I don't think you got to hear all of it. Usually when I come to work in the morning, I pass by, for most of the days, where commuters get into vehicles and where the loading thing happens, you find out that one person and another person is always in a scuffle. There is always a fight. Do you think that conflict resolution should be taught earlier? So as adults, as we're growing, we're budding into better ways to handle conflicts. Like you rightly said, to take a breather, walk away, and deal with it later. Do you think people should learn this earlier in life as opposed to learning that, from example, like this man has learned now?
Yes, I believe it should be something that should be taught. Emotional intelligence, conflict resolution, these are things that people should be asking. But we have this thing about looking down topics like this. Whereas like, why are you trying to teach me emotional intelligence? Why are you trying to teach me how to make money? That's well and good. But still, as an adult, as a member of society,
right,
how to interact with other members of society is important. You need to learn how to interact with other members of society. So yes, conflict resolution is something that should actually actively actually be taught effectively in school. It's not just we say it one time or move over it. No, enforce the habit. Let people know, because when they get to a certain age, it's already reinforced. It is much more difficult to take something out of an adult and infuse something new. And when the child is just learning things, if you teach something like that to a child, it grows up to be part of their core habits, which I'm rather fortunate kind of upbringing I had. It was something that was included in conflict resolution. There were times when I have issues with neighbors' kids, but my mom was always by me. What the people think you want to go inside, fast, you want to come out. I think for me about that, no, it's probably my steez or it's,
Right.
Why would I walk away when these boys are picking on me? No, I'm bigger than them. I have to show them. No, my mom understood that actions have consequences and they have ripple effects.
Right.
If perhaps at that point she had allowed me just, you are bigger than them, so you need to teach them a lesson. Perhaps I would have grown up in my life and viewed that, whenever there's a conflict, anybody has to be violent, has to attack the person. But because I grew up understanding that violence should not be on the table of discussion unless it's completely self-defense. But just to be upset with somebody and that will now make you, act violently on that person, you should not cross your mind at all. What will lead the scenario? So because of that upbringing, I'm able to have this idea of conflict resolution that my approach should be trying to diffuse the situation and walk away. And then later, the topic of the conversation still hasn't died down. Then, when the other person is calmer, we settle down and we discuss it. Okay, this happened, that happened. What can we do to make sure this doesn't happen again? What's the way forward?